So I started this YouTube channel 3 years ago in October of 2019. And I told myself and I told you, the viewer, that it would just be about my process with photography and just everything that I learned. I'm just going to document it and kind of put it out there. And I didn't want this channel to be about gear. I didn't want it to be about affiliate links or getting sponsors or making a ton of money. I wanted it to be about my process and my specific journey in learning photography. Because not only did I think that that would be cool to look back on and just see where I started and to see where I got, but as someone who stumbles upon these videos and is trying to learn photography, you can go from the beginning and just see kind of how I did it and see how I eventually got to where I am or where I want to be. And this is just a collection of images that Matthew made in his hometown of Marfa, Texas. Him and his partner would walk the train tracks and he would just go around shooting various things in black and white film. And I don't know what it is about these photos or why they connect with me so much, but I tend to like photography that looks easy and then you go out and try to imitate it, and it's hard to do. That's why I'm a big fan of Brian Scootmont's portraits, Alex So's portraits, Joel Sternfeld's work. It looks easy, and then you go out there and try to do it, and it's the hardest thing you've ever done. Specifically, someone like Sternfeld, when you look at his photos, it just looks like a landscape, and then you see something, and then you see something else, and then you see something else, and you're like wondering how he was there in that situation, how he set up the 8x10 camera, how he got a perfect exposure in that situation. That's just the things that I like. And I like Matthew's book and his work because it's a unique book as well. It's huge as hell. It's unbounded, unbinded, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a bookmaker, but it's just a really beautiful book and it looks good sitting on my shelf and the photos are amazing. And unfortunately, it's sold out, but keep an eye out on his work in the future because I absolutely love it. And I think he's going to be a really great photographer for a long time. I used to think that I needed to post every day. I needed to make sure my Instagram feed was perfectly curated and posting every day, posting on my story, posting a YouTube video. And 6 months into that, you realize that you just cannot progressively make better and better work. It's impossible. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. When I see someone take a break or when I see my favorite YouTube photographer not make a video for 5 months, I'm not sitting there angry at them for not making a video, for not entertaining me, or for not showing me their process all the time. I'm just patiently awaiting for them to return. And when they do, I'll happily watch their video. Same thing with posting work on Instagram. When someone doesn't post, I'm not mad at them. I'm not sitting there angry at them for not posting work. Again, I'm just patiently waiting, or I don't even remember them, and then they post and I'm happy to see it. I've taken a ton of breaks over the past couple months, and I think it's just a healthy thing to do. And you just need to know that you're not going to make your best work all the time. You might do that in the beginning, but that's only because you've never made any work, or you've never made good work. So as you're learning, of course, you're progressively going to make better and better photos, but you're going to plateau at some point. And when you do that, you're going to realize that you just can't make progressively better work. So taking breaks like that, making sure that you're doing other things besides photography, and also making sure that you're not taking in so much work, which is lesson number 3. Don't gorge on photos. I've had trouble with this because I have a lot of downtime. My full-time job is a wedding videographer and a wedding photographer, and I just have a lot of downtime. I work from home. I don't work all the time. And this year, if I had any downtime, I would be looking at work, looking at a photo book, looking at an interview on YouTube with a photographer, and it just gets to be looking at a lot of work. And when you do that, you start to either imitate that work and you don't really have your own ideas, especially if you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Reddit. Honestly, the majority of the work that gets popular on social media is just going to be average work because it appeals to the average person. So if you look at that work all the time, you're going to start making work that is average. You're going to start making work that is only going to be popular on social media. And I don't want to make work like that. I want to make and take photos that are quote unquote popular on social media, but I also want to make work that could be in a gallery or could be in a book. And work like that doesn't come up every day, and it's not made quickly. You certainly can, but you got to get to the point where you can make work like that quickly, and that takes a lot of time. And this kind of goes back to being patient and just taking breaks and not gorging on photos, not taking in so much work, and trying to create something on your own. The next category that I decided to do is entertainment, and that is just a lump category of documentaries, videos, or movies, and music that inspired me throughout the year. And one that really spoke to me was a documentary called Stutz, directed by Jonah Hill. And it goes over the teachings of Jonah Hill's therapist, who is Phil Stutz. And one of the teachings that really spoke to me the most was this string of pearls theory that Stutz goes over in the movie. And that is just him explaining, if you have a necklace, if you have a pearl necklace, each one of those pearls is going to be the exact same size. And the way that he relates it to life and anxiety and depression and things of that nature is each one of those things is a problem, or each one of those things is something that you need to do, or each one of those pearls is something that you accomplished. And his way of thinking is all those pearls are the exact same size. Nothing is bigger or smaller. In the movie, he mentioned getting out of bed is the same as winning an award, or something as small as taking a walk is the same as doing something amazing in your career. All those things are the same size, and you shouldn't put so much pressure on one thing. You should just focus on making small improvements, small steps, and you'll eventually get to where you want to be. A photography-specific documentary that I keep coming back to is one called Somewhere to Disappear, and it's all about Alex Soth's travels throughout America as he makes his photo book, Broken Manual. And it kind of relates to Alex Soth's Magnum course, and it just shows his whole entire process and how he goes about making photos. And I think it's just a really good insight into how he works and how he interacts with people. And it just gives you a nice little rundown of how he does things. And I think that can kind of get lost in the grand scheme of things, because all you see is the photos, all you see is the gallery, all you see is the photo book, and you don't necessarily know what went into each single individual photo. And this is a 1-hour video. I've watched it multiple times. It kind of just gives me a spark when I'm feeling a little bit down or not very creative when it comes to photo making. And it allows me to get a little bit of inspiration so I can go out and make some work. I enjoy the camera. Beyond that, it is difficult to explain the process of photographing except by analogy. The trout streams where I fly fish are cold and clear and rich in the minerals that promote the growth of stream life. As I wade a stream, I think wordlessly of where to cast the fly. Sometimes a difference of inches is the difference between catching a fish and not. When the fly I've cast is on the water, my attention is riveted to it. I've found through experience that whenever, or so it seems, my attention wanders or I look away, then surely a fish will rise to the fly and I would be too late setting the hook. I watch the fly calmly and attentively so that when the fish strikes, I strike. Then the line tightens, the playing of the fish begins, and time stands still. If you put too much emphasis on growing or becoming really good really quickly, you're just going to be disappointed. It takes a long time to get to where you want to be. And with social media, with the immediacy of everything, it might seem like you're standing still at some points. And it might seem that everyone else is just going way beyond what you're doing. And it's not because they are, but it's because people, photographers these days, you follow so many people. It would only make sense to see so many people flourishing, because if you follow 1,000 people on Instagram, at any given point, one of them is going to be flourishing. And then you're just sitting there by yourself and you're like, what the fuck? I'm not doing anything of substance right now. But just imagine taking all that away and you just have yourself. And then you look back on the last 12 months and you see where you were 12 months ago and you see where you are now. It kind of all makes sense. And lastly, I wanted to speak about some photographers that have inspired me this year. Above everyone else, Brian Scootmont, he is just a photographer that I look up to and inspires me the most. The way that he intertwines his own personal work as well as his editorial work, I'm very much looking into that because of the way that he shoots 4x5 with his commissioned assignments, which hopefully down the line I'll be able to do in the future. But constantly looking back at Graze the Mountain Sins, constantly looking back at Good Goddamn, anything that he puts out is just, it really speaks to me. And I think it speaks to me because I know the tools that he uses to make images, and I use the same thing. And I'm just trying to push and trying to strive to make images like that. And I constantly think about that portrait of Ralph. It's in my head pretty much every day of my life. And I don't know if it's something that I'll think about forever, but as of right now, as a photographer, it's something that I think about a lot. And it's something that I'm trying to replicate every time that I go out. It's something that I know the feeling that I got when I looked at that photo. It's something that you never forget. And it's just something that I want to try to replicate to give someone else that feeling when they look at a portrait that I make. Another photographer that's really inspired me is kind of in the same vein as Brian is Erin Springer. Again, she does more personal work. She's in the process of making a book, I believe, but she also does commissioned work for various publications. And I think it's very interesting when people intertwine and meld together their style when it comes to commission work and working with photo editors and just trying to bring those two things together, I think is very interesting. And the way that she does it is just very beautiful. I love her color work. I love her black and white work, but it's just a very personable and very emotional type of work. And it feels like she makes connections with people and she really cares about the people that she's photographing. And that's just something that I'm striving to do myself as a photographer. Baldwin Lee is another photographer that I've just found this year, but I listened to him on the Magic Hour podcast, and he spoke of making work in the South. He himself is of Asian descent, and he photographed Black people in the American South in the 70s and 80s. And he would literally take out, I believe he said, 96 sheets of film per day, or close to 100 sheets of film per day. And he would shoot all the film. And he would do that for days on end. And at the end of all this, he had over 10,000 sheets of film. And in my head, since I started shooting 4x5, I think I've had around 300 or 400 sheets of film. And just trying to wrap my head around that and trying to understand the amount of progression that he probably had in that short period of time, it's just crazy to me. But some of the images that he got are truly spectacular. And his book that came out, Baldwin Lee, is just really remarkable. And it's something that I'm definitely thinking about picking up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it inspires you to make work. And I hope you maybe learn something from my first 3 years in photography, 3 years on YouTube. And I want to also say that I've been shooting and making work for 3 years, but before that I was and still am a wedding videographer. So I had experience with the camera, and I think that was why I was able to make the progression that I made within that 3 years. So don't compare yourself to me. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Go about it your own pace and your own speed, and just know that it takes time and it is worth it in the end. Don't pay attention to social media. Everything's too quick on there. It's everyone's highlights. They're not showing everything that they fucked up. They're not showing everything that they messed up. And they're just trying to show you the good stuff. So if you have any questions about anything, let me know, or just a comment in general. I really look forward to the coming year and just continuing showing the process of being a photographer. And I hope you guys have a good Christmas or had a good Christmas and have a good new year. And I'll probably see you in 2023. Have a good one. And lastly, a thank you to the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. I've used Squarespace for 3 years now, and it's one of the best investments I've ever made. I am able to easily share my work with their customizable galleries, and I can sell prints and easily get paid with their simple-to-use online shop. I can also use their third-party extensions to even ship those prints if I feel so inclined. If you want to support the channel as well as get a small discount, go to squarespace.com/BrianBurks and use code BrianBurks for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Podcasts. There's a couple of podcasts that I listen to above all else, and the majority. Switcheroo of sorts, and it's Jonah Hill. A movie or documentary that I keep coming back to in regards to photography is Alex Sauce. A movie or a photography specific documentary that I keep coming